Someone said that we all died during COVID, and this is hell. What? I will give it to him. He does love to troll the American citizens, of which he is the alleged president. I mean, what the fuck? Could you imagine how heinous that would be? Now, I'm not a religious dude. Like, I don't believe in Sky Daddy and all that stuff. But for those that do, I mean, let's take a look at it again real quick. What the fuck? Good morning.
Again.
You're giving us another gift this week, Mr. Trump? Oh my God, thank you. Thank you. What last week was, he was going to run in 2028, which was fantastic. Loved it. Said that he now runs the world. Chef's kiss. Thank you. We had the Photoshop thing on the gang hand. Doesn't know what the Declaration of Independence was. Fantastic. And now we have this. Pope derangement syndrome on display. This man cannot even let a dead man outshine him. But they're trying to choose a new pope right now, and he still needs to everyone look at him. That's a malignant narcissist right there on display. He cannot handle a dead person outshining him. I don't think he ever thought about wanting to be the pope in his life, because he's not even religious. But now he wants to be the pope. And a pope that looks like he's saying, smell my finger. What the fuck? But this is more good news for us. The art of war is let the enemy defeat themselves. And this man is cracking apart. He really is. And he's got so many religious people in there. And when he posts religious stuff, it triggers them. It triggers them because there are different religions in there. You've got Mormons, you've got Catholics, you've got Christians and Southern Baptists and evangelicals and several more. But churches are competitive with each other because they're businesses. So when he represents himself as a different religion, that's unnerving because he's trying to install a theocracy. So he's got the evangelicals in the White House. I guarantee you the other religions don't like that because it looks like they're going to make the rules for the theocracy. And Mormons are the wealthiest church. So they're not going to want to give up that money. They're not going to want to give up their temples. They're not going to give up their power. They're not going to want to give up their garments and charging people 10% to get into heaven. They're not going to want to give any of that up. And neither are the other churches for the things that they collect and what they get. So it's like who gets to say what the new rules are going to be and what's taught. Because they have to keep their money flowing, and they have to promote a certain doctrine. And these doctrines don't match. So I like it when he shows that. Just like I liked when he did the Gaza thing with him being an idol. His Truth Social looked crazy. People were saying, please don't post this. This makes me feel like you're the Antichrist. People will look at that and think he's the Antichrist. And because a lot of them think this is leading them to the end days, there's also going to be ones that all of a sudden get scared that they're making a mistake and choosing the wrong guy. Because I've seen that going around too. Like, I'm not sure. I get scared and picking the wrong guy. So people are already nervous about him. I know some of you say, Maga's not leaving. None of them are leaving. They're leaving every day. Every day. That is happening. I don't care if your two friends haven't said they're leaving yet. They're leaving. There's 70 whatever million of them. It's going to take a minute. And a lot of them want to see some things turn around if they can. But the ones that, voted because they're conservative and, hoped he'd fix the economy are scared of a ton of stuff he's doing and think a lot of it's wrong. They think the deportations are wrong the way he's doing them. They think attacking leaders the way is a lot of things they think are wrong. Okay, so this is just more reason to unlike him. And remember, human beings work off peer pressure. So the more people in MAGA start to pull away, the more that they start criticizing him, the more other people are going to feel pressure to start to look and sound the same. To say, well, yeah, maybe that's not a good idea. But it's all Trump doing it. He's always the one, putting the missile in himself, because he could have won in 2020, but he couldn't do COVID right. He just couldn't not be himself. And I think ultimately that will be the downfall. I just think he is going to blow himself up in some way. It's very clear he's not there. So anyway, I am always grateful for things like this. So once again, thank you, Donald Trump. The only people that benefit from fear-mongering are the people doing the fear-mongering. Whether that's a news outlet, whether that is a president, a political party, your neighbor, or a content creator. They all have different reasons for doing it, but there are motives behind those, behind the fear-mongering. If a president does it, he's trying to scare you from people. He's trying to sway how people vote and how they support him. Or a political party saying, beware of those guys over there. They're trying to take your jobs. That's fear-mongering. A news station will do it not to report the facts, but to cause more drama around it, to have people checking in because they're worried. And if they can cause a panic by the reporting, that's even more news, isn't it? If the shelves get really bare because they're saying you better get out there and get stuff, and everyone panic buys, that's a big story. And that has you checking in to see, oh no, are we okay? And that's what they want. If this isn't a big event, that's not news for them. A content creator does it for a few reasons. One, they might be making money off of it. Two, it gets them to be right. Like, oh, I can get all these people, on board with me. And then when I get them really scared and then we do have a panic buy or things go bad, I can get on here and say I was right. It's like an ego trip. Some people do it because they feel alone and they want people to worry with them. But again, there's a motive. They're using you to regulate their nervous systems while they deregulate yours. It doesn't help anyone. Are they helping people that can't afford to go out and buy a bunch of stuff? No, they're scaring them. They're giving them anxiety. You're giving your kids anxiety by talking about it. Apocalyptic talking is culty. And it scares people that can't do it because no one has control over this. Sure, you can go buy food if you have money, but you can't prepare if this is really a big disastrous event. You can't prepare for that. You have to work through it as a community. That's how you get through it. Preppers, that's culty. They're planning for something that is so bonkers. And they wouldn't survive it anyway, because guess what? Everybody's going to want what they have. If they can tell they're eating, they're going to want to take it. Well, it doesn't matter, I have guns. So does everybody else. Preppers are culty. Apocalyptic thinking, culty. It's to sway people to do something, to think a certain way. The whole prepping mentality gets people to go to the right. That's how they pull people in, is prepping talk, apocalyptic talk. So please be aware of the motives behind this, because I'm seeing content creators getting attacked for not being hysterical, for not pushing the narrative on this. Look, if you need things from China and you're worried that there's going to be a disruption in the supply chain, which there is going to be, we know that. And that's the thing, is we do know. So if you need apple juice, go get extra apple juice. Mandarin oranges, tilapia, shrimp, cocoa butter, garlic, some snack foods. If those are things that you aren't going to survive without, then go buy extra if you can. No one is saying not to go get the things extra if you can. But telling everybody this is going to be devastating, you don't know that. This is a constantly evolving event. We don't have a president that's in his right mind. He could stop this tomorrow. If he starts getting really bad poll numbers, he could pull back immediately. Congress could put a lot of pressure on him because they want to keep their jobs. The people themselves, if this was really a problem, there would be immense pushback for him to stop. The biggest problem here will probably be the price gouging. I know people say, yeah, but what about the packaging? These are big companies. They have been sourcing the packaging to prepare for this. Might there be a lull? Sure. But this doesn't mean people are going to starve. That's not... Panic buying would cause that more than anything. This is just... And I don't know why people get mad that we're not trying to get people hysterical. Because I don't know when hysterics and panic has ever helped anyone, ever. I don't care what's happening. I don't care if it's happening in real time. When has hysterics helped you? When has panic helped you? Preparing where you can, following real news and facts, and staying calm is what is going to help you. It's what's going to help everybody around you. Because people want to be around someone calm and collected. No one wants to be around panicked people if there's a panic. So please be part of the calm. Be part of the solution. Help people think of what they could do if they need to do that. Because guess what? People can't go plant a garden today if they're in an apartment. They're not going to have food tomorrow. But could you help people learn how to make gardens if they have a yard? Sure. But you don't have to say, we have to do it right now because, oh my God, like, you can do it calm and collected. And those are the people that are going to come out the best with all of this. Help your neighbor, stay calm, and reassure people. That's how we can help each other as humans. Fear-mongering, there's always a motive. Please check for the motive. So China's Commerce Ministry said that Washington is saying, hey, what's up? Can we talk about these tariffs, yo? What's up? What's up? Maybe we could talk about the 145%. You know, would you talk to us? So Beijing, they're thinking it over. Saying, don't fuck around with us. No more coercion, no more your nonsense. We'll think about it. Think about your actions. So the reason I say this is because when I talk about fear-mongering, this is why. He's not a normal president. He's all over the place. He doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. This could all end tomorrow. Sure, there'd be a lull in deliveries, but it wouldn't be, dire. So keep that in mind. This is always an ever-evolving thing depending on that man's mood and the peer pressure. He does cave to peer pressure. He caves to his numbers. He doesn't like it. People in Washington are starting to push back. They're starting to push back. So let's cool it with the fear-mongering. Let's stay present to what's going on every day. Like, don't get obsessed with it, but, a we'll see attitude. Every time you see a headline, it doesn't mean things are crashing down. It just means we'll see, because these wackos can change their mind every 5 minutes. And luckily, China is the adult. So I trust that they'll do, whatever's best, and they're not going to let Trump pull his crap. But, Trump blinked again and is reaching out asking for talks. Why? Because his polls will tank. And he needs good poll numbers. He does.
The month of May is starting off with a bang for the Trump administration, and not in a good way. Remember this from a few weeks ago, when Trump threatened to withhold federal funding from the state of Maine if they didn't remove trans athletes from women's sports? And then that clip went viral of the governor of Maine saying, see you in court. Well, I got a little update for you. After ultimately settling with the state of Maine and agreeing to unfreeze those funds, Trump has essentially shown everyone that he's not as all-powerful as he wants us to think. But essentially this means that money for a children's nutrition program in Maine can now start flowing again, and in response, Maine's lawsuit against the U.S. Department of Agriculture has been withdrawn. And keep in mind that this comes after a long week of losses for Trump and his regime. His Canadian and Australian far-right conservative counterparts both lost in those federal elections this week. And it was also announced that the U.S. economy shrank for the first time since 2022, I think. I feel like a ton of new data came out too, saying that the disapproval for everything across the board is continuing to plummet. And I'll admit, guys, this last week I haven't really posted as much just because one, was busy traveling, but two, I was just really feeling not optimistic and hopeful about the state of everything. But honestly, looking at it more holistically, this was a pretty good week. And I definitely missed some stuff, so let me know in the comments what else happened this week while I was out. And while I have you, we all know that content and news like this is getting suppressed on this app, so before you lose me, go ahead and give me a follow.
So Donald Trump just posted this photo on social media of him as the Pope, and honestly, all I can say is, do something. Do something for the American people. What is going on? You've been president for over 100 days now. You're trolling on your social media app about being the next Pope. Have you been to a grocery store? Have you seen what American people are dealing with? You said you were going to do all these things to make our country great. Can one Trump supporter in my comments name me a single thing that Trump has done so far to make our country great? And don't say mass deportations, because I don't want to hear about kidnapping and abducting American citizens and sending them to El Salvador prisons using taxpayer dollars to supposedly make our country safe by getting rid of this boogeyman that Fox News has blown way out of proportion. Donald Trump has done nothing for working class families. He's done nothing for the people of this country. He's only tried to enrich himself himself through the power of the White House, and now he's posting pictures of himself as the Pope to further enrich his cult fan base. They think he's like a god or something. This is absolutely absurd.
Just when you think that they can't possibly get any more dumb, they do it. They get more stupid. When somebody sent me a screenshot of what looked like a Trump tweet saying that he was canceling Veterans Day, I thought it had to be fake because I thought this man could not possibly be that dumb. Now, the record is clear. Donald Trump hates veterans, especially Vietnam vets, especially vets who went to Iraq and Afghanistan, because he considers us as not having won that war, and therefore our service and sacrifice aren't worth shit to him. But for him to put in writing that he is erasing Veterans Day, a federal holiday since the 1960s, something that has been celebrated by Americans since the 1950s, I didn't think it was real. I didn't think that Donald Trump could be that dumb. But I guess I need to lower my expectations because it's real. Donald Trump is saying that we don't celebrate our victories enough, so he is erasing Veterans Day. No appreciation for any veterans post-World War II. And you know what? I think I know why he is canceling Veterans Day. And it's because a bunch of veterans are planning to protest right by the Washington Monument, the National Mall, on June 6th. I don't know, but maybe Donald Trump heard about this and he wanted to say, oh, well, if you're going to go out and protest for VA benefits and not let Elon Musk just cancel all of the promises that the United States made to you, well, I'm going to take over Veterans Day and I'm going to end it. When Donald Trump was 18, he was getting fake doctor's notes to get out of the draft for Vietnam. When I was 18, I was enlisting in the Army because as a New Yorker and as a patriotic American, I felt it was my duty to serve after I watched the towers fall when I was 16 years old. Donald Trump has always thought that I was a sucker, that I was a loser for feeling that compulsion to serve my country in a time of war. But to outright cancel Veterans Day, that's going lower than I thought he was capable of. And that's pretty fucking low. So look, if you want to stand up for veterans, now's your chance. Go to unite4vets.org and start making plans now to join us in Washington, D.C. on June 6th, on the anniversary of D-Day. There's going to be veterans from every generation standing together and demanding that our nation keeps its promise to our veterans. If you can't join us, please visit unite4vets.org and share information about this with your friends and family and people who might be able to join us. If you want to support the veterans who are organizing this and help transport veterans from around the country to Washington, D.C., you can also donate at that page. Donald Trump is trying to rewrite the past, but we're talking about the future. We're going to make a better future for veterans, and no draft dodger is going to stand in our way.
Congratulations, Australia. You defeated your Trumpy guy, just like Canada defeated their Trumpy guy. So much so that your Trumpy guy, just like the Canadian Trumpy guy, lost his seat in Parliament. Good on you. People used to say America was the beacon for democracy around the world. We still are, as a negative example. And I will die on this hill when I say Donald Trump is the greatest pro-democracy president America has ever had for other countries, not for us. There was a right-wing, hard right-wing wave taking over the world, but then people in other countries looked at Trump and said, oh, no, we don't want that. We want someone normal. The American electorate, in an act of temporary madness, has shown the world what not to do. Don't be like us. Don't elect a not right in the head, law-shredding dictator wannabe. Canada and Australia were smart. They heeded our negative example. That said, there may be one exception to this reverse hard right wave, the UK. We'll see about the UK. I believe that America elected Donald Trump in an act of temporary insanity, and I think the madness is over. Look at Donald Trump's plummeting poll numbers. And when Donald Trump is gone, eventually he'll go. And after we've surveyed all the damage he's done, we need to teach about this temporary madness in schools so it doesn't happen again.
Well. On today's episode of Back That Thing Up, we've got the dump truck. Beep, beep, beep. Having to back on up off of something he said the other day. Yes, baby. Yes, yes. You see, Bullshit Barbie has come out to say that that was a mistake that was made when the dump truck, Trump, decided to take the twatter and twat out into the twatosphere that he was going to rename Veterans Day, dear. Yes. Now the White House has come out to say that was all a mistake. We're not going to rename Veterans Day. We're going to leave that alone. And you should just sit back and wait for another proclamation to come shortly. I guess he's going to invent a holiday. Either way, backpedaling. Yes, put his little feelers out to see how much control he actually had over the military. And the answer he got made him sad. Imagine that. Either way.
Can Alberta secede from the rest of Canada? Now, for those who are listening, especially in the United States, Alberta is a western province in Canada that for quite a while has been toying with the notion about becoming independent, maybe joining their southern neighbor. And after the last federal election in which the Liberals and Mark Carney won, they've sort of upped the rhetoric about succession. So I think it's my job to tell you, if they want to do it, how could they do it, and what are the steps to take, all right? Take a deep breath, guys, because it's a little academic, especially for some people. First and foremost, no, a province cannot unilaterally secede from the rest of Canada. They have to go through a formalized process. 2, that process includes the province who wants to secede, the other provinces in Canada, and the federal government as a whole. Number 3, I realize a lot of people are comparing this to Quebec's attempts at secession back in the 90s and the 1998 Supreme Court ruling that stipulated in order for a province to even consider this as an option, they have to have a clear vote in a referendum within their province that could eventually lead to negotiations with the rest of the country. Now here's a couple of interesting questions. Number 1, how much of a vote do you need? Do you need 50 plus 1%? Is that enough to have an entire province possibly secede from the country? Do you need a certain amount of the voting public to actually turn out in the referendum? What if only 25% actually vote? Do you need a 60% majority in order to ensure that you have a strong representation of the province moving forward? Nobody really knows because they're all debated topics. Now I have another question I want to raise. When we're talking about seceding from a country, right? When a province is dangling this out there as something plausible for them to do, nobody's really talking about what the other side looks like, what the ramifications will be, what the conditions of secession will look like. So I'm going to raise a few so we can talk about, even, are you capable of having a vote on a referendum to separate unless you know the consequence? Because if the voters don't know the consequence of the secession plan, how could they ever have an educated vote to separate from a country? I kind of liken this to teenagers wanting to move out of their parents' house because they think they're going to have a better time. But in their head, when they move out of their parents' house, their parents are going to buy them a condo, get them a car, have a cleaning person come in, have somebody to cook for them, and give them an allowance so they can live a free and enjoyable life. But the parents haven't agreed to it. That's just in the kid's head. You cannot vote on separation unless you know what the outcome is going to look like. So here are some of my questions, all right? By the way, these need to be answered, in my opinion, before the vote, but nonetheless, I digress. Number 1, what currency you're going to use? Are you going to want to use the Canadian dollar? Number 2, how are we dividing assets? This is like a divorce, right? What debt are you going to take on? Number 3, what percentage of that debt are you going to take on? Whose passport are you going to use? Are you going to think you're going to jump right into the trade agreements that we've already agreed to across the board? What about the military? Do you think the Canadian military are defending you? Are you going to think you're automatically into NATO and other security agreements that have ever happened? All of these things being true, I have one more question for you. Considering we're talking about Alberta, and the Indigenous population, the First Nations population in Alberta, their treaty rights for Treaties 6, 7, and 8 were all signed with the Commonwealth. They were not signed with the Albertan government. These predate the existence of Alberta. So, Alberta, if you're even thinking possibly about secession, I think first and foremost, you need to deal with the people that were there well before you and have rights before you concerning their treaty rights, which is a contract and a formalized such. Are you ready to have that discussion? Listen, I get the frustration. I get the generations-long conflicts that have gone on between Central Canada and the West. I get your lack of representation. I get the idea that you have this incredible natural resource, that you are helping equalize payments across the rest of the country. I understand that maybe different governments have made you feel left out of Canada and negotiations. I also want to be clear that the money that you bring into the union doesn't give you greater amounts of power than any other person. Right? We've always had representation by population. If you want to challenge that constitutional underpinning, let's have that talk. But I don't think more money in the mix should give you more power. I do think you should have a seat at the table, and I do think now, beyond any other time in our history, that our Prime Minister and our premiers of all provinces should sit down, discuss how we can unify and go forward, because if we don't, here's what I do promise you. The guy down south will pick you off one by one, and if you think he's giving you a fair deal, you got to have your head read.